The trains are back. Another big win for Purdue. Back-to-back blowout wins. This is the second straight game, or I guess Minnesota was able to get it down to 18. I was going to say second straight game of a 20-point victory, but second straight game of an 18-plus point victory. I believe the second straight cover. Purdue looked good. They looked sharp. They were up 30 with like 3 minutes left before the bench came in, and Marquette was able to hit a couple shots and claw the deficit back a little bit. But overall, just kind of a suffocating performance from Purdue. Didn't shoot particularly well from three, but just completely dominated an overmatched Marquette team inside. I thought they did really well on the glass. They were great defensively, in my opinion. Won the rebounding battle by 9 in a game that I think only had 65 possessions in it. Wasn't really a high possession game. So really, really impressive showing by Purdue's front court especially, but just an overall really good team performance. So Ethan, what did you kind of see from Purdue in this matchup?
I saw someone describe this as business-like, and that's kind of how I would describe it too. I think it was not the most dominating performance. We've seen Purdue beat teams by more than this year. We've seen Purdue score more offensively. We've seen better defensive performances, especially late. Got a little sloppy in this one. But Purdue had a mission. They were playing a wildly overmatched Marquette team at home. They needed to get a comfortable win and move on to the next one, and that's exactly what they did. Thanks in large part to Oscar Clough, the clear best player in this game. Got a KenPom MVP again, 22 points, 11 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 2 blocks in 23 minutes, and a perfect 9 for 9 from the floor and 4 for 4 from the free throw line. He was essentially flawless in this game, other than a couple of turnovers. A fantastic game for Oscar Clough, and it was fun to see maybe the most overlooked player on a very deep Purdue team have his moment to shine.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw the stat, and it was like tied Caleb Swanigan for the most points scored on perfect efficiency at 22. Just a dominant game from Oscar Clough. I thought, he deserved that KenPom MVP. He's the clear best player on the floor, and I think there was a point in kind of or the early to middle part of the first half. It was beyond the opening stretch. Both teams had kind of settled in a little bit, but there hadn't been a ton of time in the game for either team to pull away. And Purdue had missed a couple shots early, and Marquette hit a big shot or two to hang around early. And there was a chance that Purdue kind of ran with it out of the gate. I think they started up like 8-2 or something like that, and then Marquette was able to hit a couple shots and stay attached. And Purdue wasn't shooting particularly great, and it looked like it might have been one of those games very similar to Memphis where you felt like you were a little better, but this scrappy defense-first team with a lot of length and athleticism kind of hangs around and is able to cause some problems for Purdue. And I thought once that feeling crept in, like Oscar Clough and TKR, both of them really, but Oscar Clough especially, kind of were just like, it's all right, guys. Like, they can't stop us. They can't hang inside. And you started to see Clough get some post touches, and I thought both of them really started to dominate on the glass too, which just completely ended things for Marquette. A Marquette team that is already a bad shooting team is happy to take threes, and Purdue's happy to let you take them. So team that shot 8 for 31, there were plenty of defensive rebounds, plenty of offensive rebound opportunities on some longer rebounds, and Clough and TKR kind of shut the door on the glass.
Yeah, this is another phenomenal rebound game for Purdue. Out rebounded Marquette 38-29. And a lot of that was boosted late by Marquette getting a lot of offensive rebounds against a much smaller Purdue bench lineup once, all the starters out of the game, even Jacobson out of the game late. So really they kind of got whatever they want on the glass. I mean, Clough had 11. Trey Kaufman-Renn, very quiet game by head standards, still at 10-9 with an assist and a block. Like, it's just a solid day at the office for Trey. He had 9 rebounds. Braden had 5. Most of the rebounding came from those 3 guys. I mean, Benter and Jakari each had 3. Jacobson only had 2 rebounds. He started on the glass in this game. But on the whole, just an efficient game. I mean, getting 20 rebounds combined from your starting front court is exactly what Purdue needs from these guys, and it's exactly what they got. For most of this game, Purdue was getting second chances on basically half of their missed shots.
Yeah, I mean, there really weren't too many opportunities for rebounds in the first place. Like, Clough and TKR combined for 20 rebounds. Marquette had 29 as a team total, and you talked about it a little bit too. Like a good chunk of those came in the last kind of 5-minute stretch when Purdue's size had left the court and had properly dominated that game, I thought. But part of it was offensively too. Like Purdue really never got going from behind three. And we've talked about it a little bit before. Like this is a team built to make shots, and if they don't make shots, they kind of don't have a ton of other ways to create separation. They showed they can do it inside tonight or on Saturday night, I thought, or Saturday afternoon actually. But yeah, I mean, you saw an overmatched front court. Like Clough and TKR just kind of looked at Ben Gold and Caden Hamilton and were like, yeah, no, like you can't check me. You're not physically strong enough. You're not physically big enough. And I thought Purdue did a good job too of not freaking out when they missed shots and getting the ball inside to guys who had favorable matchups. And, Clough and TKR really had a strong showing. I mean, Clough was 9 for 9 from 2-point range. TKR was 3 for 7, 4 for 4 from the free throw line though. I mean, combined, they were 12 for 16 and 8 for 8 from the free throw line. That's a very efficient game. I think speaks to how dominant they were. TKR didn't have the best statistical game, but he gave you everything you needed from the 4 spot and just kind of the consistency that he's been giving all year long.
Yeah, like I said, quiet game, but a solid one from Trey. I mean, if your starting front court is going to give you a combined 32 points and 20 rebounds, I mean, you're not going to lose many games. And I mean, these guys had Marquette's front court in absolute hell. They couldn't match their size, their physicality. Guys are getting into a lot of early foul trouble, and then Shaka Smart had to kind of play the foul game of rotating some guys and try and spread the fouls out and keep anyone from getting kind of pushed out of the game early on. Fletcher Lawyer, another good day, 15 points, kind of snapped out of his shooting slump, 5 for 9 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, hit his only free throw, had an assist and a steal. Very classic Fletcher Lawyer game, 15 points, 0 rebounds, 1 assist. I mean, that's what he's there to do. He's there to take shots, and he made them in this game, 50% from 3. Absolutely take that. It was another good game for Fletch.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what this Purdue team needs out of Fletch. Like, take 8 threes. Don't turn the ball over a bunch. Don't be a complete net negative on defense. Get out of there and win by 20 points. And Fletcher did the Fletcher thing where he shot 8 threes, had 1 2-point attempt. His only free throw came on a 3-point where he got fouled on a 3-point attempt that he did make, by the way, 4-point play for Fletcher. But that's just like the ultimate Fletcher game. That's his role. That's what they need him to do. And I thought it very much like Purdue in this game, it was businesslike. I mean, this is just what Fletcher does. He didn't play above his means or anything like that. This wasn't an A+ Fletcher game. He didn't wow anybody or knock their socks off, but 4 for 8 from 3, you'll take that every time. And, to go along with that, kind of a similar approach from Braden, it felt like. Didn't hit a 3, but was 3 for 4 from 2-point range. Hit a couple of middies, really got that going a little bit. 10 assists, 5 rebounds, 2 steals. Had the 4 turnovers, but I didn't really feel like that was a major issue. He had the one kind of funky pass to Jacobson where he threw it like 10 feet over his head, and that was just kind of a little uncharacteristic, but not something I'm really that worried about. Overall, very businesslike from the two back. I feel like as good as the front court was, and as kind of starry as the front court was, the back court was every bit the businesslike nature that this team feels like. And I think that's kind of the story for this Purdue team is this team has an identity of how the guards play. As good as the front court is, this team's all about the guards, and they have 2 really good ones, and they showed up and just kind of handled business.
Yeah, Braden clearly gunning for that assist record, 10 assists in this game, only 5 shots or 6 shots. He was looking to pass, 7 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals. You won't complain about that stat line in a 20-point blowout win. Just to quickly hit on some bench guys here. Wasn't Jacobson's best day. 4 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist, 2 blocks, but he did turn the ball over 3 times, just 2 of 7 from the field. Marquette's bigs are able to get into him a little bit, and he's still lacking a level of physicality to his game that I think will need to be developed with him. But I mean, the future is really bright with him. And when Clough is playing the way he did, you don't really need anything from Jacobson at all, other than a little bit of rim protection whenever he subs in. And That's exactly what he gave you in this game. Obermeyer, identical 16 minutes, had 7 points, 2 of 5 from the field, 1 from 3, had a rebound, 2 assists, had a really, really sweet sort of whip pass to Trey Coffin Ren dunk that nearly broke the rim. There was some replays going around of how close Trey came to like a 30-minute stoppage off of his dunk. He really, really punished the Mackey rim there. Which, hey, when you get a wide open dunk like that, and you're a guy like Trey who scores a lot but doesn't get many dunks, take him when you can get them.
That felt like a frustration play too, because I'm pretty sure that was the play where he punched the ball right after. You know, I will give him credit. I felt like the body language was a little better today. I thought he did get mauled a couple times with some no calls. That we've heard kind of Braden talk about it in the past. TKR gets such a weird whistle, man. It's so odd. He was getting mauled a few times, but credit to him. I thought he kept his head on his shoulders a little better in this game, and you know that felt like the only frustrated moment he really had all game. I think otherwise he kind of kept his head on his shoulders. Hit a couple of hit one of those little floaters later in the game where just caught the ball in an inbounds play with no one around him, and he was 12 feet from the basket, and looked like Trey from last year and kind of hit the shot. So I thought this was a good body language game. I thought the guys responded well after kind of an iffy 8-minute start. And, we've seen this Purdue team kind of pack it in a little bit at times, body language wise and mentally, when they don't have the strongest start to the game. And I thought they did a great job of not letting that happen today.
Yeah. I mean, it was a rough start early. Like you said, Purdue wasn't hitting shots. They had a lot of turnovers early. Marquette hit a couple of shots, and it was this weird, 12-8 game, midway through the 8 minutes into the game, and it just felt really sleepy and weird. It felt like a blizzard game. This is in the middle of a huge snowstorm in Indiana, and the Midwest in general is very, very cold over the weekend. Mackey, of course, was still packed as always, but it was a noon tip, or I guess a 2 p.m. tip, and just kind of felt sleepy early on. And Purdue created some separation, really never looked back. There's really not much more to say on this. 20 points. Felt like it could have been more, but really called off the dogs the last 10 minutes of the game. So, and took what could have been maybe like a 30 to 35 point victory. And it just kind of hovered around 25 and got down to 20 right at the end there. I don't really have anything more to say on this game. Do you?
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of like a B performance to me. I don't think Purdue played their A game. I don't think that this was even really that close to the best version of Purdue. And they still played good. They handled business. They didn't play poorly. And I think the story of this game is kind of just like Marquette doesn't really have a ton going for them right now as a program. And that was kind of it. I mean, the one thing I would like to point out, I did think the defense was a lot better this game. And now part of that is obviously Marquette not really having the dogs, but I do think that rotation seemed a little crisper. Guys seemed to be more cohesive on that end of the floor. I was pretty impressed with the defense. I thought for all the times that I've seen, even the Minnesotas of the world, be able to get into the paint. In the first half of that Minnesota game, I thought Purdue struggled to keep Minnesota out of the painted area. And, I didn't think there were any of those problems at all at any point in this game. I thought guys did a good job keeping their man in front. I don't think anybody really got beat on cuts. I think rotations were crisp and kind of on point. I was very happy with the defensive side of the game. I think the only reason this wasn't really an A for Purdue was the offensive side of the ball, in which I just didn't really hit shots, and I'm not really that concerned about it. And it makes for a pretty uninteresting recap. There's just kind of not a ton of notes from this game.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little bit in the preview that never saw the light of day about how Marquette just generally does not they just don't have the personnel to attack Purdue defensively. Purdue's defense right now is predicated on crowding the paint, collapsing it on drives, forcing the ball out of their stars' hands, and letting role players take somewhat open threes. And Marquette is the perfect team to run that against because they can't shoot. They have one guy who can score consistently, and he is a downhill rim running guard. If you contain him and just force it to some iffy perimeter shooters, you're going to have a day. That's exactly what Purdue did against Iowa State. That's not a team you can run that defense against because all their role players can hit shots and get hot. and they did in that game, and Purdue didn't really have an answer. I think it still remains to be seen what Purdue's going to do against teams like that, against teams like you talk about like a Duke or a Michigan, where that basic defensive game plan isn't going to work. And yeah, but we're talking about two of the 3 or 4 best teams in the country when we talk about this, because I think those are the levels of teams that are really going to be able to exploit Purdue's defense. Purdue's defense is 23rd on KenPom right now. I figure it'll probably hover around there, maybe jump a little bit higher, a little bit lower throughout the year, largely based on matchup and shooting luck. I think Purdue's defense is one that requires a lot of negative shooting variance for the opponent. If they get really hot from 3, I think Purdue could be in a little bit of trouble if their offense isn't clicking. But yeah, like you said, Marquette just didn't have the dogs in this game. It was a pretty clean defensive performance, which is always good to see for a team where defense is always going to be kind of the question mark throughout the season.
Yeah, for sure. That's about all I've got. So on that note, everyone, thanks for listening, and be sure to tune in. We will be back for I believe it's Kent State next is who Purdue has, unless I'm blanking on team. No,
It's
Auburn.
Auburn.
Auburn on Saturday.
Auburn on
We'll
Saturday.
be back with a preview for Auburn on Saturday sometime this week. So thanks for listening, everyone. Be on the lookout for that.